Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today. Now, my views of ancient Egypt have been shaped by many different people that have investigated ancient Egypt, and I think it is important to get a wide variety of information and kind of filter out what rings true to you and what doesn't. And if you are reading an author and you find a lot of good information and you find something that doesn't ring true with you, I don't think you should disregard all the other information presented. Ancient history is not a court case where if a lie is told, you have to disregard all other information. And I think it is important to look at early authors of Egypt and what they had to say. Today, we have a rigorous collar that has been put around people's necks that have been investigating Egypt. Egyptology today has an agenda where everything has to be affixed to certain Egyptian dynasties. And I think that is kind of sad. But one of the people that I found very interesting, and I'm going to leave a bunch of links below in case you want to investigate this further, is a man by the name of George Gurdjieff. Some of you may have heard of him. But this is what Gurdjieff says. In short, it says, "When I realized that ancient wisdom had been handed down from generation to generation for thousands of years, and yet had reached our day almost unchanged, I regretted having begun too late to give the legends of antiquity the immense significance that I now understand that they really have." And going over to this is Gurdjieff.com, and this is one of the links I'll leave below. It says, "George Gurdjieff was a mystic who revived ancient wisdom during the 19th and 20th century. He lived between two ages, catching the tail end of the pre-industrial world and transporting its legacy into an era where mythology and symbology had all but died." It says, "In his youth, Gurdjieff sensed that there had to exist knowledge that instructed man how to transcend himself. He sensed that knowledge had to be obtained by special effort. He arranged expeditions to exotic places in search of ancient teachings and eventually came upon a secret brotherhood. All we know about his days of apprenticeship is autobiographical, deliberately shrouded in mystique by its author. Nonetheless, when he appeared in Russia in 1910, he undoubtedly possessed a unique system of self-development. Gurdjieff claimed to have found, in his expeditions, a map of pre-sand Egypt. The supposed map was evidence of a civilization that had existed before what we know as dynastic Egypt, an advanced prehistoric culture responsible for humanity's subsequent wisdom. In those times, sand had not yet transformed northern Africa into what we now call the Sahara Desert, and the continent was the most thriving and civilized place on earth. Man was closer to the earth, to the heavens, and most importantly, to himself." And a guy who did a biography or a story on Gurdjieff says that Gurdjieff claimed to have seen the Sphinx on this pre-sand map of Egypt. And whether that is believable or not, Gurdjieff, after obtaining this map, went directly to Giza and the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx site to, in his own words, find an explanation for the Sphinx. So I have made videos where it talks about the Sphinx being thousands of years old, much older than what Egyptologists tell us. I think there is a lot of evidence. People have suppressed knowledge about the Sphinx and what lies underneath, and once again, I'll leave some links below, but I just think that is very important. But Gurdjieff also talks about this knowledge, and he initiated himself in the mystery schools of Egypt, and I'm just going to let Bill Donahue talk briefly about what Gurdjieff says about pre-Egypt.
Gurdjieff, and whoever told me about this never read anything other than some of the other stuff. But this is what I found. Look what he says here. Gurdjieff tells us that the earliest indications of the teaching of the four-way lie in prehistoric Egypt, an Egypt that existed before recorded history. And look what he says. "It will seem strange to many people," Gurdjieff said, "when I say that this prehistoric Egypt was Christian many thousands of years before the birth of Christ." Let's go to the next Gurdjieff. He said that the principles and ideas constituting true Christianity were known many thousands of years before the birth of Christ. In discovering these, he had the blueprint, so to say, of the original Christianity. And as he said, the Christian church, the Christian form of worship, was not invented by the fathers of the church. Now get this. It was all taken in a ready-made form from Egypt, only not from the Egypt we know, but from the one which we do not know. This Egypt was in the same place as the other, but it existed much earlier. And he's coming out and saying, without mentioning the emerald, that what we call Christianity. Now, and how do you find it? Because if you go to the emerald tablet and you talk about Thoth, who was called up, you find out that he sat down, he was talking peace. And he scattered out all over the earth to talk people about civilizing.
So I find what Gurdjieff says to be very interesting. About a year ago, I made a series of videos where I showed you things such as the Ten Commandments, communion, the Lord's Prayer came directly from ancient Egypt, and more specifically the 18th dynasty. And Ancient Origins came out with this article yesterday where it talks about the earliest version of the King James Bible, and it says the first books of which were written down beginning about 3,500 years ago. And that is the exact start of the 18th dynasty, so that definitely fit. But I find Gurdjieff's writings very interesting. They come from a time where there wasn't restrictions put on researchers in Egypt, and I think that is very important. But a map of pre-sand Egypt, that is going to be hard to accept for some people. We kind of only accept what we can see. We only perceive, or our perceptions are only based on what we can perceive. But the earth, the landscape of the earth has changed very much over the last 12,000 years, and I think Egypt is one of those places where what we see today is not at all what was going on about 10, 12,000 years ago. And we have lost sites in ancient Egypt that were really only around maybe 3,000, 4,000 years ago. They have been totally obliterated, so we are not going to find anything from 10, 12,000 years ago, whether it be technology or anything else. People say, well, where is this technology from ancient Egypt, or where are these machines that they used, or whatever? Well, you're not going to find it, folks. You look at shows like American Pickers, if any of you are familiar with that show on History Channel, where if they go after a bike or an airplane or sometimes a motorcycle from just 100 years ago, they are thrilled just to find a piece of it, just a fender or handlebars. Technology from 10, 12,000 years ago, it's not around anymore. But I find Gurdjieff's work incredibly interesting. He went directly to Giza after finding this map. He could have seen a map of pre-sand Egypt with a Sphinx on it. Geological work and other things have really, you have to push the date of the building of the Sphinx back many thousands of years. And I think the current state of Egyptology is quite sad, where you had a dictator running the show, Zahi Hawass, who was only concerned with one thing, and that was preserving Egyptian heritage and legacy. But these monuments, such as the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx, they are monuments for eternity. They are for the legacy of all of humanity, not just ancient Egypt. Gurdjieff's work I find incredibly interesting. I will leave links below. Hope you thought this was interesting. You have a nice day.